Okay, everyone, we are back, and this is the final video in this UMG UI inventory series here. In the previous video, we have got a lot of work done now. Our inventory system is functional, so we can walk over to an item, and then we get our pickup tags. You can pick it up. We can hit up our inventory now and display it. Our cursor's up. We can use items. We can do all kinds of stuff now, and we can drop items. In this video, what we're going to do is a little bit of cleanup, a little bit of polish work. There's still some things that we need to fix. If I hit I can currently still fire projectiles while our menu is up, which we'll probably not want to do. And then we also want to have our inventory kind of fly in and fly out whenever we call it. So we're going to do that. And then we'll also set up how you can modify these pickups directly right here inside of the details panel, adjusting, the static mesh that is displayed, how much health or energy or mood it gives you, the thumbnails that should appear, the text, etc. All that can be set up inside of the details panel. So we're going to do all of that in this video as we close out this series. So let's go ahead and start off by first animating our inventory menu. So to do this, we're going to go down to our UMG folder in the content browser, open up our Game HUD widget blueprint, and make sure that we are on the Designer tab. And we're going to hop down to our animation section inside UMG. So over on the left is where you create your animations. And once you have created them, then you can start manipulating them inside of Sequencer. So let's go ahead and first start off by creating our animation. So I'm going to click this plus sign here to create an animation. It's going to ask me to enter a new name for it. Just going to call it the menu anim for short. I guess that's fine. So we're going to call it menu anim. And once I select it, you'll see that the sequencer now becomes available for edit. Quick rundown of some of the options in here. You can see you can play, you can rewind, loop, etc. The timeline here on the far right. We also have the option for auto key, and as it says here, enables and disables auto keying. And what that means is once we start moving our UI elements around in our graph here, it will automatically add keys for the properties for that particular widget inside of the sequencer timeline here. And then I could drag this timeline over and then move it wherever else I want, and it will add additional keys. It's one workflow you can use to keyframe your UI animations. And then there's also grid snapping and snapping intervals, etc. For our purposes, this is just going to be an intro into animations just to show you and how you can set this up and get your feet wet. So what we're going to do, let's select our inventory menu inside of the hierarchy here. So we are looking at the inventory menu itself. And what we're going to do is, first of all, go over to the details panel on the far right. And under the slot section for position X, we're going to set this to 0. So right now it's set to negative 445.9. We're going to set this to 0. And when we do so, it shifts our inventory menu off screen. I'm actually going to set this to, say, 10 instead. So it gives it a little bit more room off the edge of the screen here. So it's currently off screen. And if you look next to position X, there's a little icon here. This will allow us to add keyframes for this property down inside of our sequencer here. So anytime you see one of these icons, it means that you can add a keyframe for it inside of the sequencer here. And it's not just for position, it could be for the visibility, you could do it for colors, etc. Anytime you see this icon, just go ahead and click on it, and that will add, pending you have an animation created, add a keyframe inside your sequencer. So we want to add a keyframe. We want to make sure that we are currently set at 0, 0 on our timeline here. You can zoom in and out on the timeline by mousing over the time section up here and just using your mouse wheel. We want to make sure we're at 0, 0, which we are. So we're going to click the Add Keyframe button. And it's going to add a keyframe for this property at this position. Now, what we want to do next is drag our timeline over a little bit. We're going to say half a second because we want this animation to be pretty quick. We want it to fly in and fly out relatively quickly. So at about half a second, we're going to go back to our position X, and we're going to set that back to its value that it was before. I believe it was negative 445.9 something. Let's see. That looks about close enough. So negative 445.9. Just line it back up with your action menu here. And once we've done so, let's click the Add Keyframe button. And that's going to add a keyframe for this property at this particular time. Now, if we scrub our timeline, you can see that our inventory menu now animates based on those two values. And what's really cool is that right now we could start out playing it one way, and we could also play this animation in reverse. So we only need one animation. All we're having it do is fly in, and then we'll play it in reverse and have it fly out. So that's all we're going to do for our animation. It was pretty short, but kind of get the idea. It's basically keyframing properties, moving your timeline to a different time period, and then keyframing that value again is essentially how you're going to drive the animating of your UI widgets. So with that, let's compile and save, and then close this blueprint, because we're actually calling the animation whenever our player character presses a button to bring up the inventory. So we're going to do that inside of our first-person BP and blueprints folder. So let's open up our first-person character blueprint. And there's our toggle inventory menu. So find your toggle inventory menu script. So I'm going to move this up a little bit, give us some room. And what we want to do for this is play that animation. So let's see. Let's grab our game HUD reference here. Let's hold Control and drag that in. And from it, we are going to drag off and search for Get Menu Anim. So get our menu animation that we just created, like so. And then we can drag off of Menu Anim, and we can select Play. So if you search for Play, there's an option for Play Animation. So go ahead and select that node. And as you can see, there are a bunch of different options on here. You can set it to loop. You can set at which point it should start. And there's our play mode. We could set it to forward, we could set it to reverse, or we could set it to ping pong if we'd like. For right now, we're going to use forward, so we're going to leave it as default. And let's go ahead and connect our enable mouse cursor here to the play. Now it's asking for a target. We need to specify the widget that is the target. That's going to be our game HUD. That's our target. So let's plug that into the target, like so. Move that over a little bit. And that is it. That's all we need to do for playing an animation. Now, the reverse side of it, there's a little bit of extra work that we need to do for this. Not necessarily on the animation itself, but just the way that we've set up our system here. Currently, when the player presses I, they will display the inventory menu. When they press I again, they will hide the inventory menu. But before we hide the inventory menu, we want to play our animation. We can't necessarily put it at the end over here like we did with playing it forward. Otherwise, we would hide it and not see our inventory menu, and then we would disable cursor, and then we would try to play the animation on a hidden menu, which is not what we want. So we want to play it first, then hide it, then disable our mouse cursor. So let's go ahead and select these two nodes here and hit Control-C and then Control-V to paste them. So let's drag off of our menu anim again, and let's use the play. So play animation. On this one, we're going to play it in reverse. So click the drop down and search for it and select the reverse option. Now, I may need to do some shuffling around of my nodes here. So I'm going to move some things around and kind of give us a little bit more room. Let's just move these over and move this up. And let's just grab these and move these over like so. Okay, I think we got enough room. So what we're going to do, disconnect our B temporarily. Let's just right click on it on the flip-flop and break the link, because we want to connect our play animation first. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's grab our B and connect it like so. And then let's connect, before we connect, I should say, our hidden here. Before we set it to hidden, we want to add a little bit of a delay before we hide our inventory menu. So we're going to drag off this now, and we're going to use a delay node. So delay. And we'll set this to about 1 second delay. This should be enough time. So after the delay, then we can hide the inventory menu and disable our mouse cursor, etc. So let me expand our comment section here a little bit. Something like that. Okay, let's compile and save. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. We need to plug in our reference too. Make sure that we assign the target reference here. So let's grab our game HUD reference, plug that into the target. That should get rid of our error. So let's compile again and save. Let's test this. So if I hit play, and inside of our level here, I hit I, flies in, hit I again, flies out. It's exactly what we want. But there's one minor thing that we're going to need to fix. If I spam I right now, so if I just I really quickly, kind of makes our inventory menu a little bit less than ideal display of it. I mean, it still functions, but there's some issues with spamming. So let's go ahead and add a preventative measure for this really quickly. So back in our first-person character, our menu is working, but we need to prevent the player from spamming here. So what we're going to do for this, I'm sure there's probably another way you could do this, but we'll just do it this way. So what we're going to do, let's create a Boolean variable. So in the My Blueprint panel, create a Boolean variable, and we're just going to call this the inventory delay. So it's an inventory delay Boolean. And what we're going to do is, let's see, let's first of all go up to our play animation up here for forward. Let's hold Alt, drag in our inventory delay variable. So hold Alt and drag that in to create a set. And we're going to set that to true here. So we are going to say delay the ability to toggle our inventory. Then what we're going to do for the B side of this, before we play our animation, we're going to do that same node of inventory delay. So I'm going to select it actually, Control C, and let's move this over just a little bit more. And let's hit Control V to paste our set inventory delay. Let's take our B and plug that into the set. Take the output here, plug that into the play animation. And what we're going to do at the very end of all of our script here, it's a little bit messier than I wanted, but there we go. What we're going to do at the end is delay one more time and then set this value to false. So let's right click and search for delay, like so. We'll set this to about half a second. So I'm going to set this to 0.5. So I'm going to take our inventory set here. I'm going to hit Control C and Control V to paste it. I'm going to uncheck this now so that it is false. Once the delay is completed, set that to false. Now for both the A and B portions of script here, we want to call this. So we're going to plug both of these ending sequences here into our delay, like so. So that when either of these are called, we're going to delay a half second and then set inventory delay to false. So the reason we did this is back on our branch here, when we press I, we are currently checking if we can activate the inventory from our game HUD, but we're also going to check this inventory delay now. So let's hold Control and drag in our inventory delay. I'm going to drag off of it now and hit a exclamation point and equal. So the not equal Boolean, go ahead and check that. And we want to make sure that this is not true. So go ahead and select this. Let's drag off of our inventory here, our activate inventory. Let's add an and Boolean. So and, so. Let's connect this condition to the and the output into our condition here. So let's move this over just for clarity, a little bit of clarity, something like this. So are both of these true? And if they are, then we can turn on our inventory menu. So let's compile and save, and let's test this out. So if we play, I hit I, everything's still functioning, but I can no longer spam I and no longer mess up our animation display. So that's a little bit better. I think that should work. That's better than having the player spam I and kind of cause that animation to get all messed up. So I think we're good with that. The last thing that we're going to do for the toggling of our inventory is we can currently press I and bring up our inventory menu. We could still shoot, which is what we don't want. So let's go ahead and fix that. We can also jump too, which we don't want. So let's fix that. So back in our first person character blueprint here, let's go back to our toggle inventory menu here. And what we're going to do towards the end, before we get to the delay on both of these nodes here, let's right-click, or not right-click, let's go down to the My Blueprint panel. Let's add one more variable. So click the Add Variable button. This is going to be called Menu Open. It is going to be a Boolean. So we're going to hold Alt and drag that Menu Open variable that we just created into the graph. Let's connect our inventory delay, like so. I'm going to hit Control, oops, not Control X, Control C. Well, let me select it. Control C, Control V to paste it. Let's move these down just a little bit. And what we're going to do is say menu open is true when we activate our inventory. Menu open is false when we disable it. The reason we're doing this is we're going to use this menu open Boolean to check all of our movement functionality. So being able to shoot, we'll verify that against our menu open. Being able to jump, etc. We'll be able to verify that off this Boolean here. So let's reconnect these to the delay, like so. So our toggling of our inventory menu is complete now. Now that we have our menu open, make sure that, again, when you activate the inventory that it is true, and that when you dismiss the inventory, it is false. So with that, let's find our movement section here. So our shooting, just going to create a branch here. So spawn projectile, going to connect the pressed to the branch, like so. And this is all script that was here that came default with this template. Let me just move this stuff down, save some room. And we're going to take our menu open, hold Control and drag that in. And we're going to say, drag off that and say point, or exclamation point equals not equal, like so. Not equal true. And let's connect this to this. And then let's connect our true to our montage play. So if menu open is not true, then we can continue on with this script. So let's compile and save. And let's test this. Let's press play. So right now I can shoot, I can press I, and I can no longer shoot because my inventory is up, which is what we want. I can still jump, still move around, but I think shooting was the big offender here. So we've disabled that. If you'd like, you can go ahead and repeat this process of creating a branch with this condition here. You could do that for jumping. So you branch and check if the menu is open, branch and check for mouse input and mouse movement and stick input and our regular movement as well. If you'd like to add that, feel free. I think that's good for now. For the sake of time, we're going to continue here. So let's save this blueprint and let's close it because we are done. I want to hop into the template pickup here and show you quickly before we wrap how you can modify these pickups directly inside of the details panel here. So let's open up our template pickup here. I'm going to double click and open it up. And once we have it open, what we're going to do is, let's see, what do we want to do first? What we're going to do is create some variables first, actually. So let's go over to the My Blueprint panel here. And we need to create some variables that are going to be used to determine the thumbnail, the pickup text, the action text, the static mesh that is associated with this pickup, etc. We need to create those variables here in the variables section of the My Blueprint panel. So let's go and do that. We're going to click the plus sign to add a variable. First variable that we're going to create is called custom image. This is the thumbnail image that we're going to be using. I'm going to select it. Then over in the details panel, far upper right here, let's change the variable type to a texture 2D. So texture 2D. Also going to make sure that it is editable, so that it is publicly editable outside of this blueprint. So it's opened up the eye icon for us here. Let's create a couple more variables. So click the plus sign. This is going to be custom pickup text. So this is the text that we want to display in-game above the pickup that we're going to be able to specify. In the details panel, let's change this to a text type. So it's a text type, like so. Again, this is publicly editable, so go ahead and click that checkbox. And I'm going to create another variable. This one's going to be custom action text. So the text that appears inside of our menu. It is also going to be text. And we also do need to make it publicly editable. So I'm going to click this eye icon there. So that one is set up for us. The last one that we need to create, go ahead and click the plus sign, is a custom static mesh. And I'm going to hop over to the details panel. Variable type. Let's change this to a static mesh. Added a K to static there. A static mesh as well. So go ahead and select static mesh and make sure that it is publicly editable. Then the last thing that we're going to do inside the My Blueprint panel here is make sure that our health, energy, and mood are also publicly editable. Let's go ahead and set those to publicly editable as well. And now we can access these externally from outside of this blueprint and set those up as well. So with that, let's actually hop over to the construction script. Now the construction script we haven't worked with yet, and then a quick introduction to this is essentially anything that is connected to this executable here. This will get fired anytime this blueprint is updated inside of the editor. So anytime you make any changes to this blueprint, or anytime you add any, move the blueprint around in the level, etc., any changes that happen to this blueprint at all, this script will be fired. So if you are familiar with blueprints, you may be shaking your head saying, yeah, I've worked with construction scripts in the past. But I kind of wanted to show you a quick way you can use this for our pickups, for the sake of our pickups, to make things easier for you down the road. So what we're going to do, we're going to hold Control and drag in our item info here. And what we're looking for, if we right-click in the graph, is to set members in inventory struct. So we are setting the members inside of our inventory structure. Go ahead and select that. And then right-click somewhere in an empty space on this node. Right-click on this node and restore all structure pins. So it's going to give a bunch of stuff that we can fill out. So let's go ahead and start filling that stuff out. Before I forget, I'm going to connect our executable here to our set members in inventory struct. And the struct reference is our item info. So let's plug that in. Now for the item, we're going to drag off this and say get reference to self. So get reference to self is what we are doing. Now for the item image, let's go ahead and plug in our custom image that we just created. So we're going to plug that in. So left click and drag and drop that on top of it. Pickup text and action text, let's just drag both of those in. So we're going to drag our pickup text and connect it like so. Then we're going to take our action text and drag that on like so. Oops. As far as the static mesh, we need to access our static mesh. So we need to click this drop down here, make sure that show inherited variables is checked. And then under components, actually we don't need to do that. It's under components. I always forget that. It's right there. That's what we want. So under components, let's hold Control and drag in our static mesh. And then off that static mesh, we're going to say set static mesh. So we want the set static mesh here. It's going to allow us to define what the static mesh should be. And let's connect that to that. And we're going to use our custom mesh for the new mesh. So let's take our custom mesh, drag and drop that on top of our new mesh, like so. And that should be all we need to do. We can compile. And you see that the node has been fired, so everything got updated. We do need to set some defaults here because we've kind of created these variables but haven't assigned a default value. So everything has been zeroed out, but we only need to do this once. So select our custom image. By default, with our template pickup, we said we were using the can. So I'm going to go ahead and select this. Again, it gets fired and updated. Pickup text, our default pickup text is going to be canned beans, for example. And our default action text is to eat beans, like so. Our custom static mesh is going to be our shape underscore cylinder. So that's the default for everything. And let's compile and save. and close this blueprint. Now if we look inside of our level, I have 2 of these here. You can add another one if you'd like. If we look inside of our level, when we select one of our pickups inside of the details panel, for that pickup, you see we have access to defining how much health we should get, how much energy, how much mood. We can set the custom image. We can set all these properties now right here inside of the details panel. So it makes things nice and neat for us. So say, for example, we wanted to change this pickup. We could say this pickup is now a banana. And we could say that the pickup text should be banana, if I could spell it, like that. And we could say eat, like that. And we could say that the shape should be the 180 something. Yeah, shape pipe 180. It will update to our shape pipe 180. And we can also change how much health, energy, and mood. Let's say that this gives us no mood and gives us 50% energy or health and 10% energy, like so. So we've now modified this pickup. So if we play in the editor now, you can see we have 2 different pickups now. This one's beans and this one's a banana. So now I can walk over to this, I can hit E, I can press I, our inventory slides in. There's our banana thumbnail that we've assigned. I can click on it. Our text has updated to say eat. Now I should get, was it no mood? Was that what I said? Let's see. Yep, I got no mood, but I got a lot more health and more energy. So that is a way that you can modify your pickups right there on the fly inside of the details panel now. We could also do, let's see if I hold Alt and drag out another copy of this. Let's go ahead and use the rest of our thumbnails since we've done it. I'm going to click this drop down. Let's make this one an orange. Like so. So orange, eat orange, and let's do the shape sphere. So the shape sphere is what we're using for this one. Let's say this was a bad orange, and it gave us negative. Can I do a negative? Let's see, negative 0.5. So it's going to actually take away from our mood, and it's going to give us, but it's going to give us 50 energy, even though it was bad. And let's say it didn't give us any health either. But it detracted from our mood because we don't like oranges, maybe. So let's play. And if I go over to this orange now, it should say orange. Let's watch what happens to our mood after I pick it up. And I hit I. And I click on it. I can eat the orange. Let's eat it. Oh, my mood is gone because it was bad. So there we go. All essential items to survivals: canned beans, bananas, and oranges. I guess the next thing that we'll do before we wrap this video up is show you how you can modify the template pickup to do different things. So right now we are doing the same thing with this particular pickup, essentially just adding to the health, energy, or mood. But say we wanted to equip a gun or spawn something in the world. I'm going to show you a quick way that you could do that before we close out this video here. So to do this, what we're going to do, we're going to go down to the starter content for this. And we're going to go to the blueprints folder. There's a blueprint effect fire here. I'm going to right click on this and say duplicate. So I'm going to create a copy of it. And I'm going to call this the, I'm just going to call it fire. I think that's fine. I'm going to open it up. And if I go to the viewport, you can see that this is just a fire particle effect that spawns. This is going to be really cheesy, but kind of wanted to show you really quickly before we close out this video. What we're going to do, right click in the graph. We're going to do an event begin play, like so. What we're going to do next is right click in the graph again and say get player character. So get our player character. I'm going to cast to it so that we can access our player character, player character blueprint. So I'm going to drag off of this get player character here and say cast to first person character. So cast to our first person character so that we can access it. I'm going to connect that like so. I'm going to right click on this pin here and promote it to a variable as we've done in the past. I'm just going to call it character reference. So character reference. Next thing that we're going to do, we're going to right click in the graph and use a timer. So we're going to say set timer. So set timer is the node that we're looking for. And let's connect that to that like so that it gets called. The object is going to be a reference to our self. So self. This timer is going to be looping, and I'm going to explain what it's going to do for us here in a moment. So it is looping. And we're going to say that this timer is executed every 1 second. So what we're going to do is create a quick and dirty script to give our character an increase to one of its properties every 1 second when this particular effect is spawned in the world. So to do that, we're going to right click and we're going to say this is just going to increase our mood. It's not going to give us health or energy. So we're going to say custom event. Let's add a custom event. And this custom event is just going to add mood to our character. Then going to hold control and drag in our character reference here. And now we have access to our player character's mood value. So I'm going to get mood value before I add to it. For the sake of this, I'm just going to drag off the mood and hit a plus sign. So float plus float, like so. And I could make this a variable and publicly expose it, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to add a value to it. We're going to say 0.05. So it's going to add 0.05 to our mood. I'm going to do this as well just to show you this. If you were setting this up for real, what you would probably want to do is clamp the amount that gets added. So we're going to clamp this. So clamp float. So the max that it can reach is 1.0. We don't want it to go past 1.0 and have a surplus of mood. So we're going to clamp that at 1. So it'll stop once it reaches 1. And then we're going to drag off our character reference and say set mood, not mode, but mood value. And what we're setting that to is the return of our clamp. So plug in our mood like so. And let's connect our mood value like so. Okay, with that we can compile and save and close this blueprint. Well, no, there's one more thing. We need to actually call this function. So up in the timer, under function here, this is what you could specify that you want to occur every 1 second. So we're going to say add mood is what we are calling this custom event every 1 second. So now with that, we can compile and save and close this blueprint. And back in our first person BP and blueprints folder, let's go ahead and copy our template pickup here. So we're going to right click on it, duplicate, and this is going to be called the fire pickup, like so. Now if I double click on this and open it up, all of this script is going to stay essentially the same. There's only one thing that we need to change on it to provide the functionality of a different pickup. And that's what happens when we decide to use it. And what we're going to do is, let's actually select all of our health, energy, and mood and delete that. We can actually delete our character reference as well. All we're going to say is, what happens when we decide to use this, this item, this fire pickup? We're going to spawn that blueprint that we just created, that fire effect that adds our mood. So let's drag off of our use action here and say spawn actor from class. So spawn actor from class. The actor that we want to spawn, if I click the drop down here, is, did I just call it just fire and all? I did, yeah. So it's just fire is what we want to call. There's our blueprint effect fire, the template one, but the one that we duplicated is here. So we're going to spawn that. The spawn location, we're still going to use our player character, which I should have kept. We need that. So let me go back and get it. Our character reference, let's hold control and drag that back in because we need the drop location. So we're going to drag off of our character and say get drop location, that arrow inside of our player character. So get drop location. Then we could say off of our drop location, get world transform, like so. And let's connect our transform, like so. And that's all we need to do. We can kill this destroy actor, like so. Let's compile. Oh, you know what? There's one more thing that we need to do. I forgot. Let me go over here to the right. So when you do duplicate, so we've duplicated this pickup. We've duplicated our template pickup. When we duplicate it, it's not getting a proper reference here for the refresh inventory node. So you may need to delete this and just re-get it. So drag off the get HUD reference here and call refresh inventory again. So refresh inventory like so and reconnect it. I think it's because there's a reference that it's not properly getting when we duplicate it. So doing so should fix that issue like so. Then we can save it. All the errors are gone. So now if we take our fire pickup here and we place it inside of our level, inside the details panel, health, energy, and mood is not being used for this particular pickup, so it doesn't matter. But for the image, we can change this to our fire image that we created. We can say that the custom pickup text is collect firewood, maybe, I guess, and then start fire. Now for the static mesh, I don't have any firewood static mesh, but we do have a bush, so we're going to use that. So we're going to collect this bush and start a fire with it. So with all of that, let's play and test this. So there's our bush. We walk over to it. We can collect that for firewood. So let's hit E, pick it up, press I. There's a fire icon inside of our inventory. We can click on it, start a fire, or we could drop it and replant it, I guess. But we're going to start a fire, and it has spawned a fire right in front of us, and it's affecting our mood. So that is going to wrap this video series up. We have created an entire inventory system through UMG. We also created a health, energy, and mood display. We've also worked with UMG animation, so we are animating our inventory. Again, recapping really quickly, we can pick up items and add them to our inventory. We can drop them, we can repick them up, we can use them. It affects our player condition. We've set up our pickups so that we can modify them directly inside the editor. We can have multiple pickups, and they all get represented inside of our inventory here. So we are done with this series. Hope you guys enjoyed this series. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.